Everybody, let's give a big round of applause for Leanne Kim and the San Diego Asian Film Festival for putting this on every year, man. And welcome to the Fresh Off the Boat panel. Let's bring on Nachika Khan and Melvin Mark to the stage, please. And Randall. It was Randall Park.
Okay, let's get right into it. Again, Randall Park, Nanashka Khan, Melvin Marr. And first thing I wanted to talk about was basically how this show came to be. I mean, for all of the people that are here, they may not know, not everyone may know the backstory, how this show ended up at ABC, how you yourselves have become part of the show, as well as Randall here. So maybe if we could start off just talking about how the show ended up at ABC and how you guys have become part of this.
Eddie Huang wrote a book called Fresh Off the Boat, and I read the manuscript, it must be 2 years ago now, and you know, I have a deal at 20th with Jake Kasdan, and we optioned the book, and you know, we talked about it for a while as like, wouldn't it be a really great idea if we like had a television show about an Asian family again? And everybody at 20th is like, yeah, that'd be great. And you never really
had like, no.
Yeah, and you really don't think that it's actually going to happen. And then I met Notch at sort of a film festival like this, and I thought she was Indian, and I thought, oh, she's Asian and funny and great. And then we sat down and met and talked about it, and then I realized she's not Indian. And but she still loved it, and we set out to make a pilot. We pitched it around town. We pitched it to all the networks, and ABC just immediately loved it and gravitated towards it, and we set it up there. Yeah.
You know, like, not a lot of people understand, like, the true business behind Hollywood, just like the thousands and thousands of shows that get pitched, and how it comes down to that one or two show that gets greenlit. Sometimes it's not even for a full season, it's just literally for that pilot. What do you think it was about this show that ended up getting to a full series order, and why do you feel it was, of all networks, why ABC?
I mean, I think that you never really know. Like, I think when we first started out, you know, when I read the book, the thing that I really related to, you know, is I'm also first generation American. My parents were both born in Iran, and you know, the details of my growing up experience were different, obviously, because I'm not Chinese, but the experiences were the same, and the feelings, like wanting white people food and just wanting to fit in. And I think that, you know, the fact that it spoke to me on a different level is what ABC responded to, and I think that's what people respond to in the pilot. So, you know, it plays across all audiences, you know, it's sort of a universal thing, and I think that probably contributed to it. You know, I think people were like, wow, this is something we haven't seen before, or we haven't seen it done this way, and you know, we want to see more. We're invested in this family, so.
And how about for you, Randall? How's the casting process like, and how you came to be a part of the show?
You know, I've been acting for a long time now, and I've done a bunch of pilots before. Like, every year, a bunch of pilots are made, and so many of them, they never get picked up. So for a show to just get made, it's like unbelievable. But for a show to get picked up the series, it's like to me it's like a miracle, you know, because there's so many factors that go in, that are involved as to why a show gets picked up, and I don't know all the factors as to why our show got picked up, but I think it's a lot of reasons. I think it's time. You know, it's been 20 years since we've had an Asian American or an Asian family be the center of a network sitcom, and I just think it's time. And what was the question?
How was the casting process like?
Casting process, yeah.
So you answered a completely different question.
No, I answered the question before, I think. The casting process was, I had done a small part on a movie that Melvin produced.
Yeah, Randall came in and did a day on a movie that Jake directed called Sex Tape that premiered earlier this year, and you know, I've been a big fan for a long time. He's like done stuff with, we have a mutual friend, Nick Stoller, and I just loved him. And on sort of like, through a mutual friend, I called, and we had this one role for one day. It was like, he was going to be like one of Rob Lowe's employees in the movie. And I thought like, Randall Park would be perfect. And I knew he was doing Veep at the time, and maybe he'd be available. And I just called him directly. And he called me back and he was like, yeah, man, I'll fly to Boston, cool. And we like flew him out for one day, and he shot his day, and by lunch, I had said to Jake, like at the monitor, I was like, he's Louis Huang. We have to get him. And Jake was like, yeah, we have to do it. We had no script at the time. I knocked on his trailer door and handed him a book and said, I want to make an Asian family television program at ABC. Nacho Khan's going to write it. He looked at me like I was insane. And I said, just read the book. I was like, do me a favor. I took him out and had a drink after we wrapped, and I said, just read the book on the way home. I immediately called Notch and said, you've got to meet Randall. And
yeah, and then, I read the book and I thought the book was incredible. I already was familiar with Eddie, and I think Eddie is just such a unique and dynamic person, and just to be a part of something so special, I was like, I have to be a part of this. I'd love to be a part of this. Let me audition, and it kind of all came together.
Nice. I know that Hudson, Ian, Forrest are here. Maybe Nanachka and Melvin, you could talk a little about how they ended up being a part of the show also.
Oh man, we had to search for those kids. We did casting calls. We knew we needed 3 brothers, and especially Eddie was going to be real tricky because we needed somebody who was believable, who had that swagger that we were looking for, and Melvin tried to audition. That didn't go well. No, we were a little too old. He kept putting on wigs and coming in.
I got really desperate. And,
but then Hudson, I think, put himself on tape. He lived in New York, and we saw, a self-tape. The casting director saw it, and then forwarded it to us, and we flew him out, and he came out and auditioned, and we did a few rounds, and we knew that he was the kid. That we knew it. So.
Yeah, we looked everywhere too. We had casting calls, like open calls in LA, San Francisco,
Seattle, Vancouver.
Yeah, even Canada.
Yeah, we looked all over.
We found him in Brooklyn.
A tree grows in Brooklyn. And then the other 2 kids, and then Ian and Forrest, they came in. Our casting director found them, and again, it was like, yep, that's it.
We found them in Arcadia.
Yeah. The SGV. So yeah, that was it pretty much. And Randall's being modest. He didn't audition. Like, we made a deal for him immediately when he wanted to do it. We were like, he's our guy.
Yeah.
And he helped us cast everybody else. He was the first piece of the puzzle, and we cast everyone around him. So.
Very nice, very nice. A lot has been made about the show in the press, just even in blogs and people talking about just how the significance of it. What do you feel is the significance of this show? I mean, aside from the fact that after 20 years there's an all Asian American cast again, but is there like a message that you kind of want to sneak through to the public besides that it's just entertaining?
I mean, I think that the first thing is that it's funny. That's the message we're trying to get across, because at the end of the day, it's a sitcom, and if it's not funny, people would be like, oh yeah, I get what they were going for, but the fact that we can sort of be like, talking about things that other shows aren't talking about, but in a funny, entertaining way. I mean, I think that's the Trojan horse. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like you couch it in comedy and familiarity, and then you hit it with this, these parents standing up for their son for being called names, and that's something that's very powerful. And you don't see it coming because you're laughing, and then you get hit with it, and you're like, whoa. I mean, hopefully is the idea, and so that's kind of, I don't think we have any, big message or anything we're trying to say, except for this is a family that cares about each other, and they have problems like everybody, and hopefully, you want to watch them.
Yeah, even to reading, before the TV project, reading the book, I always thought, this is a portrait of an American family that hasn't been shown on television. It's a slightly different point of view, or it's a huge different point of view that I think is relevant and great, and I remember, I was lucky enough years and years ago when I first started. I worked with a guy named Michael. I was working at DreamWorks, and this guy named Michael Leeson, who wrote the pilot for The Cosby Show, was a writer there at the time. And I remember asking him about it because I grew up watching Cosby Show. And I asked him, how did that happen other than the fact that Bill Cosby is like a giant star? And he always said to me, like, you know, Bill Cosby's vision for that whole thing was just show black people in different light. Up to that point, there was never a show that showed like just a normal African American family. He was successful. He, you know, had different had you know, normal problems, and it's just a slightly different point of view that didn't like land on stereotypes. You know.
What about you, Randall? What are your thoughts?
Wait, what was the question again?
To you, like, what do you feel is the significance?
This is like what it's like to work with Randall.
For me,
Tunes you out
it's
all the
like,
time.
I mean, for me, it's like how it is for a lot of you guys, because like, you know, I'm like, you know, I've been around. I'm, you know, and I remember Margaret's show, you know, 20 years ago, and just what a big deal that was back then, and for kind of, as far as network TV is concerned, for nothing like that to kind of ever happen again till now. I mean, it's a big deal to me to be able to like see people who look kind of like me on TV, you know, just being funny and being you know, telling these kind of heartwarming stories without being the butt of the joke. You know, that's like important to me, you know, because it's like usually or often, you know, we've been kind of conditioned to almost like as soon as we see someone who looks like us on TV, it's like, oh no, we're going to be the butt of the joke, you know. Whereas here, I feel like, you know, the show is about us, you know, and it's from our perspective, and that's like, so to me, it's so special, and yeah.
Yeah, like you're not the funny neighbor or like the accountant.
Yeah, exactly. Or the, you know, the lab technician on the drum. or you know, the I don't know, the Chinatown Gang episode, you know, of the drama where they go into the, you know, it's like, we're like the center of the stories here. And I think that that's like just super cool. And on top of that, just, I mean, trust me, like the pilot is great, but like the series it just gets better and better. It's like everything has really come together, and I'm super proud of just to be a part of it, you know. Yeah.
Nice. You know, I always feel like whenever there's like some huge Asian American phenomenon, whether it's from a show or whatever, maybe news, the first folks that are always beginning to criticize or say anything critical is from Asian Americans also. Do you feel like that any of that has occurred, or if there's any top complaints, common complaints that come about, as much as awesome it is, and I think, and maybe this is just my opinion, but I don't sense that from the white community. It's always from our own people that it comes first.
I mean, like I don't like begrudge that personally, because like I understand, like when you have such a lack of representation on there, like yeah, you're gonna put a lot of weight onto what does pop up on screen. You know, especially something like this. I get it, and I get why people, you know, want the show to be perfect for them. It's because there's no other show like it right now. There hasn't been for 20 years, so I totally understand why people may be nitpicky about certain things and may expect it to be like, they want to take ownership, you know, they want to take ownership and they want it to be theirs and they want it to be perfect because there's no other thing to kind of, you know, compare it to. But with that being said, it's like the show, you know, the show is, it's one show, you know, it's just one show, and it cannot speak for everybody. But in the process, we are trying to do some good work. We're trying to make a funny show, and we're all conscious of not, you know, not being stereotypical, not being, you know, not going to that place where we've kind of, you know, been
An
so
easy
often.
joke. Yeah. No, and also it's a very specific, like, one family story. Like, this is the story of this kid and his family, and, you know, I think it's always hard to, like, be the first or be the only thing. But once that works, then everything else will fall. You know what I mean? It's the first thing that needs to work. And it's been 20 years since Margaret's show, but, you know, that show didn't work for whatever reason. It got canceled. if this show works, then you'll see the sort of domino effect after this. And then there'll be more and more, know, and there'll be more representation, and there'll be more niche, stuff, and it's just the first one needs to succeed.
Yeah, and one thing I hear is like the accents. Why you gotta speak with the accents? And I totally get it, dude. I get it, and like, and as far as my character is concerned, like, oh man, the accent, it's not like authentic, and I'm like, I'm with you. I'm working on it, and I'm like, and it's important to me to get it right. It's really important to me, not especially for like the Taiwanese community watching it. I don't want them to like look at me and be like, oh, it's fake. I want them to look at me and just be into the story, So, but it's also a process for me, it's something that I'm constantly honing, and again, like once we get into this series, I think it gets better, but it is definitely something that I'm mindful of, and when I hear that criticism, again, I don't like get defensive. I take it, and I'm like, I'm gonna work on it, yeah.
I'm sure, probably for all of you, there's moments where you're chilling at a cafe and you overhear some people talking about the show, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. What do you feel is like a common, Melvin, for you, since you didn't talk, what do you feel is like a common complaint or issue that you overhear, or do any of that happen to you?
Wish I had time to chill at a cafe. That's great. I hear a lot of what Randall hears in terms of like the accent and things like that, but I always say, like, there was a quote by, I can't remember who it was now, I think it was one of the guys from the East West Players, where he said, like, white sitcoms go on all the time, some mediocre, some great, some bad, and then they get canceled, and then nobody thinks about it the next year, and they make another white sitcom that's mediocre, bad, or good. But, this one, at the same time, we have the spotlight because it's the first one in 20 years. And, like, it's always a work in progress. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to, it has that sort of responsibility just by default. And it's a good thing. And at the same time, it's hard to sort of feel like you come out of the gate, getting everything right all the time, and sometimes it's tricky. But like Randall says, we're trying at every turn to make it
and you
better.
watch any show that's like a huge hit, go back to the pilot episode, it always feels, like the pieces are coming together, but it's not quite there, and then you go into a few episodes in, or a few seasons later even, and it starts really coming together, and I feel, I'm so proud of this pilot, but I'm like, again, I'm super excited for you guys to see the series once it airs, because really everything is just coming together, and from where I stand, it's like so good.
I'm one of the people that I think this is just, regardless of what anyone thinks about it, this is going to be one of the best things that have occurred for Asian Americans in a long time. And I think, like, when people talk about the show with me, and of course I'm going to hear someone's annoyed about something, I always feel that the opposite of good isn't bad, the opposite of good is invisible, and that's where the Asian American community have been for so long. And so these shows, they're going to add another layer and add another layer to the story of Asian Americans here, so I think it's awesome. I'm going to go into the question phase, but I want to ask one last question before going to the question phase. My favorite scene was the lunch scene, when Hudson goes into lunch, and because I think that is such a ubiquitous experience for all Asian kids growing up. I know I experienced it, and I did the same thing, asking for like Lunchables, or asking for, I want to make sandwiches. Like, that was my favorite scene. What was your favorite scene, and what were your favorite scenes?
God, I don't know. That's a great scene. I love also the scene where she's shopping in the Taiwanese market. I think that's such a relatable, like, everybody who doesn't go to like Ralph's, you know what I mean? Like that clean cut hospital-like store. I love when she talks to Eddie and she says you have to do your best, and she's rollerblading with the women and talking about the bag of dog poop. Like, I think there's just so many things along the way, but the scene that's just amazing, that's, to me, is the lunchroom scene. And the mislead of they bond over the music, and then it's undercut with the food thing. And it's the unexpected kid who bullies him. It's not the white kid. I think is also, I'm happy with the way that story was told. And I just want to say, like, I think that, what these guys are saying are right. Like, I think that there's always going to be something to improve upon, and we're always doing that. But I think that our stories and our show have, like, a confidence to it of intent. We know what we're doing, and we're proud of what we're doing, and the stories reflect it, and the actors reflect it, and it's like we have nothing to apologize for. And for me, like, that's what I keep, like, the comedy that doesn't apologize, to me, is the best kind of comedy. Everybody doesn't have to like it. I mean, that's comedy, it's subjective. But, we're not apologizing for what we're doing, and I think that's the coolest thing for me.
I like the chips. Who doesn't love free stuff? And I relate to it. My whole family loves free stuff. And her little sort of hand wave to me was perfect. It was like...
Yeah.
How about you, Randall? Do you have a favorite scene?
It's been a while. I got here a little late, so I missed the screening of it. But I've seen it. But as far as remembering like a specific favorite scene, there's a lot of aspects of it I love and I identify with, and I love those scenes, of course, and also the stuff that that I got to do at the restaurant. It's something that kind of speaks directly to kind of my experience, and probably a lot of our experiences with, if not ourselves, our parents, and small businesses, and opening businesses, and starting from the ground up, and just the struggles of trying to, open a small business. It's a tough thing to do. It's a tricky thing to do, and that whole aspect of the pilot and the series, I love just being in that restaurant. It's like fun, super fun.
Cool. Let's open it up to the public for questions. First question from anyone.
So, I feel like, as a consumer of a lot of things in media, I feel like we have a lot of starts and stops over the last 100 years or something. James Guetta, of these amazing stars, George Takei in the 60s. And we feel like we're always like, this is the groundbreaking thing. This is the thing that's going to make us mainstream America. And, we saw like the Mindy Project and Sullivan's Son. We're seeing, Glenn on the Dead. It's always something that people come up with. So, Fresh Off the Boat really feels like, I feel like I'm being naive or maybe optimistic, but I feel like this is really something that's going to push us even further. And my question is, I guess, how does it feel on your end of the screen as actors and producers about this show and its actual potential for Asian Americans?
I think we all feel excited, it's tough when you're in it because you can't see the forest for the trees because you're just trying to make, whatever episode you're working on that week, the funniest version it can be and the most entertaining and make sure the story works and but there's always those moments where you sort of take a step back, and that's why, I think we all really love coming to these things and the reactions that we've been getting because we're real proud of it, I feel like we're doing it, and the support that we've gotten from the studio and from ABC and from everybody has been tremendous, and I think that we feel confident, like I said, and that doesn't mean we're perfect, but I think that it means we're here, and you can't ignore us, and I think that that's the most important thing, and that's maybe, what feels special to me about it, so.
Yeah, for me, it's like, we are kind of in a bubble, so it's kind of tough to stand outside and to think about those things, but I echo what Nach says. I'm just super proud to be a part of this show, and I think the show is really good. I think it's super funny and smart, and I think that people, Asian people, but also just everybody will, a good number of people will think the same, and I think will win a lot of people over. Whether that'll change things for Asian Americans in terms of like our everyday lives, I don't know, but I thought Linsanity was going to change my life, you know. And it did in some ways, you know. It did. It definitely was like a great time for me, and I was really confident back then, and I still am, you know. And Linsanity helped, and I think that our show, as far as Asian Americans are concerned, it's going to help, you know. I honestly don't think it's going to hurt in any way. I think I'm confident that it's going to be a part of the puzzle for us.
0-5 is a little rough, but we're still.
Wow.
What's 0-5?
Oh, Lakers record right now. All right. There's the person back there.
Structure and the format is not like the Chris Rock show. I'm old enough to remember that show. So, did you sort of draw any connections with that show?
No, not really. You know, we were just trying to figure out a way to sort of, tell the story in the best way. Obviously, we had the book as the source and the inspiration, so we were trying to figure out the best sort of way to tell this for, adult audiences on ABC, because that's always a thing you sort of have to figure out when you have like a kid as your main focal point. Like, how do you broaden it so it includes the whole family? So I think that was sort of just the trying to figure out the best way to tell the story.
Right there in the middle.
How did you go about deciding to cast only sons rather than adding a daughter? Because as a Chinese daughter, my experience of growing up in a Chinese family was quite different from being the son of my brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, we wanted to stay true to the book in terms of that. I mean, Eddie has 2 brothers, and so we felt switching it to a girl would maybe, in a way, kind of dilute his experience, like his story. And there's something interesting to me about Constance, about the mom, Jessica, being the only woman in the house and having to sort of navigate, she doesn't have, with grandma, of course, but she doesn't have sort of her eyes out there. She doesn't have a daughter that can sort of help her. So it's like she's going to be finding her way on her own, and I think that's an interesting journey for her to take.
There's the one right behind you. Yeah.
Was there a decision about the kiss between Eddie's parents?
Uh-huh.
Because that's not typical in the Asian family, and it would, I actually looked at that and was like, I don't know, that sounds untypical to me. I don't know if anybody.
Well, that's funny that you say that, though. We have a storyline coming up where, they don't understand, Constance and Randall's character sort of are like going out in the world and they see like white couples like hugging and just like doing like just little displays of affection, and they're like, what are these people doing? Like making out in front of everybody, like for the world to see, and they're just holding hands. So we have, we're sort of commenting on stuff like that, but I think that everybody felt that it was such a touching moment, and that was just, these guys felt it in the moment. It wasn't intended like they kiss or anything like that. It was kind of just, something that they came up on the day and, felt that it was right for the scene, and we all saw it, and, we kept it in, because it's like, you know what, they love each other.
It's kind of cool. Everyone knows we do it. We should just try it. No, I get it. My parents, I've never seen them hold hands, so but it was kind of cool to actually do it on television.
I think there's a lot of things like the kiss, for example, that are very specific to this family in this show that may not be relatable, like little aspects of that for maybe like Asians expecting to see their parents on the screen. I think this is definitely a specific family, and I think that this is there are a lot of things about them that a lot of us can relate to, but there are certain things, little behavioral things about them that make them unique, and make them specific, and I think that kind of little display of affection is one of them. It could be seen as one of them, along with other things, little things throughout the series that may not be like, oh, that's not my folks. But that is this family,
You right there. Right there, yeah.
I just want to say thank you. I really enjoyed the pilot, especially having to endure another show which is terrible called Blackish. I'm really looking forward to seeing you fresh off the boat. You guys are everything that that show is not. You know that they are playing on stereotypes, and you guys, you have things that might be a stereotypical situation, but clearly you're not making fun of it.
Right.
Thank you for that. I wanted to know, my question was, when is the show coming on and how many episodes so far?
Ellen from ABC. No, we don't have an air date yet, but we should find out. Yeah,
I know.
we don't know. I know. So if anyone hears, text us. We're trying to find out. There's talk of February or March,
Yeah.
but we don't have a hard thing. We should find out hopefully within a month. And there'll be 13 episodes. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, right, you in the middle.
I think one of the things I love about this show is that it talks about whiteness in a way that I haven't seen in any network television show before. So I'm kind of curious of what the reaction was from like what was interested from network executives and stuff that you actually say like white people and white
Yeah.
food and white people lunch. Like, what was the reaction to that? That sounds so novel.
I mean,
Easy here in the next report.
yeah, it was real funny. Like, we literally had like a white count on the pilot, and like some executive at the studio was like, "Do you realize you say white 10 times?" I'm like, "No, I didn't realize that." And you know, the first focus test that they did, like a little bit, it was coming back. Like white people felt persecuted, and I was like, "That's ironic." You know, so we were aware of it only when we were made aware of it, because you know, and we were like, well, it is what it is, and you know, but for the most part, yeah, because you don't really hear that.
We didn't, when we were developing the script, it didn't come up. Even though like the people we work for at 20th TV are the whitest people on the planet, they were completely supportive, and you know, they thought it was great and edgy and really helped us with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just kind of going off that, I really loved how like white people were every single time I was just like, oh yeah. I think that's also like you said, like a little dangerous because you are portraying like white community as like the general thing. So I was just wondering if you ever heard, like, is there any more future in the storyline of like changing that white perception, or have you got any comments about that?
Yeah, no, definitely. In the next episode following the pilot, you know, Jessica makes her first friend in Orlando. So, but it's not like who you think, but it is a white woman. So, white people were the first to embrace rollerblading, weren't they? Like they went all in for rollerblading. They were like, give me everything. No, you know, like you know, it's all tongue in cheek, and I think that like people with good senses, you know, like. A lot of white people love it. You know, they're like, that's hilarious, and you know, the redneck bit at the end. You know, it's like, you know, it's fun to turn the tables a little bit, right? Because it's like what Randall says. Like normally, it's you know the minority cultures that have to be those kinds of jokes, and it's fun to be like, hey, white people, what's up?
Oh wait, I think we got Hudson as a question.
Oh.
My dad always said it's not really true, but do you ever feel that like black churches fell in like competition, or do you feel like
We're all on ABC, we love them all.
Yeah, I don't think it's competition. Like, you know, I mean, we're all going to share a network, so. You know, we feel like as long as the shows are good. I mean, I've not seen those shows because I've been working on ours, but I mean, I thought your question was going to be, how can I get my credit bigger? I was like, okay, Hudson, I'll talk after.
Wow, there's all of a sudden. We'll go like that from here and then go all the way back. Okay, right here.
sort of about the setting, it's set in 1994, and so it sort of lends itself to there being a discussion or like sort of not necessarily a direct conversation, but a conversation between America of today and the America of 1994,
Yeah.
I mean, we purposely kept it, 20 years ago, which is when it happened in the book, and because of course there was talk about, do we just set it in the present day? But what we really liked about it was that, like, that felt like the last era, like before the internet exploded, and you sort of like were where you were. Like, you had to make it work with the people around you. You couldn't just like Google like Asian kids hip hop and like find other, it's like you had to like, that's not an option. So we like that sort of feeling of the family just having to sort of make it work with the people around them.
Yeah, and as far as the time, I know for sure, like further into the series, there's a few things that kind of reference like specific kind of things about that time. I won't spoil it for you. Watch the show. Yeah.
We're gonna get 2 more questions only. Gentleman right there.
But you mentioned about laugh tracks. Is it going to have a laugh track, and how do you deal with that? How does it involve you
No laugh track. That's usually it's a convention of multicam, and this is a single cam, and I want you to really laugh.
That lady in the way back actually raised her hand for a while. We'll go with the lady in the way back.
This question is for Randall. I just came back from the ABC showcase. I know that you were alumni.
Oh yeah.
Could you just talk about how that helped your career in other industry things to help acting careers and
Well, for those of you who don't know, like a lot of, in kind of the search to kind of bring more diversity to their networks, a lot of the major networks hold these, basically these workshops and these kind of talent shows. They'll audition a bunch of actors of different, from different kind of underrepresented groups and have them perform scenes in a theater like this in front of an audience full of executives. And I did, I've done a lot of them for the different networks, but I did the ABC one, gosh, early in my career, like way back. And, the ABC one specifically did help me a lot. I actually got my agent from that showcase. But some of the other showcase experiences, you kind of feel like, oh, they're just kind of doing this to kind of keep us quiet. They don't really they don't care too much. But with a few experiences, and the ABC one in particular, I felt like there was a genuine kind of desire to find talent, and to kind of diversify their casts, and not only the cast, but their directors, writers, and all that. And I think this season is a testament to that, with all the diversity in terms of their shows. It was a great experience. Yeah.
All right. So I'm a big fan of Eddie's work, and he's like he's like a big influential person to me. So I was just wondering, like, how involved he was in like the production process, because I know he did like the voiceovers and he's like in some cameos. So I'm just curious as how involved he was.
His voice is in every single episode,
okay.
And he's always around. He did a great thing, which is he wrote a book that I think put it in a way where we could make this possible. I think being somebody who's done this for a long time, I've read a lot of Asian American family scripts, and for one reason or another, they don't end up getting to the next level. And Eddie wrote a book that broke through in a really great way, and he is forever a part of this.
Cool. So we're gonna wrap it up, but I'm gonna ask one question that wasn't asked throughout this whole thing, and it is the question that is always popping up in the internet and people complaining about it, or what is the reason? Clearly the name of the show is because the book is named that. But is there another, has the team discussed about, like, is there a message that we're trying to do with that? Are we trying to, some have said reclaim the word fob, and, what are your thoughts on that?
My thought has always been like, there's a repurposing of the term. For a long time, I have been called many things, many derogatory things growing up, and there's a point when you get to a age, you just realize like those things sort of shaped me in a really cool way. And this title sort of represented that for me. And so that's my personal opinion. I just sort of thought the book being titled Fresh Off the Boat, the show being titled Fresh Off the Boat, it's a moment of like real sort of like you're reclaiming and you feel good about yourself and you've done something with it. You know, you've taken all the negative things in childhood and done something for yourself, you know?
Yeah, and you know, I think that also it's a wider term. It's for all immigrant cultures. You know, I mean that's a term that's used for Italians, for people who weren't on the Mayflower, essentially. You know, and it's like, which was also a boat, but so everybody is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a term that like for me. It's kind of what I was saying earlier about not apologizing, and it's we could have called it something safer, maybe something like not controversial that everybody would be fine with, but that's not the kind of show we're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not trying to do a safe show that's just going to blend in and fade away or whatever. It's this show you'll know is here, and I think the title reflects that, in my opinion.
I'd always hear one thing I hear like argument against it is, oh well, these white racist people are going to take that term and just be using it all the time. And my whole thing is, white racist people are gonna use anything to be racist. You know, like, you know how many times I got called Harold during Harold and Kumar, and that's like not, that title is not on its own an offensive title, but I got called Harold a lot. And what about the Kumars? You know, how many times my South Asian friends got called Kumar? You know, it's like, that's a dumb reason. Because, racists are going to be racist and no matter what. But I like the title. I think it, and I like the dual meaning of the title, like with the word fresh and kind of how it alludes to kind of the hip-hop kind of aesthetic and Eddie's kind of love of hip-hop. Cool. Everybody, give a big round of applause for Melvin, Anashka, and Randall. And for the show, Fresh Off the Boat, and the cast over there, Hudson, Ian, Forrest. Please be on the lookout for the show, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, don't
Thank you.